Hey everybody, in this video we are going to go over something called Express Router. Now Express Router is built into the Express library and it is something that helps us change the structure of our server to be more modular. So quick word here to cover. Express Router enables us to modularize our routes in Express. And what does that mean? Well, a modular file organization means different files are used for specific tasks. So right now in our server, it is handling everything, right? It handles middleware, it handles our data, it handles our routes, it's going to handle quite a bit if we keep it all in this file, and that's going to cause an issue. If you can see here, I have extended this assignment or this server since you last saw it. Not only does it send up movies anymore and lets you add new movies, but it also has it for TV shows. You can get your TV shows and you can add new TV shows. So if we were to continue building this, doing get one, post, put, delete for movies and TV shows, this one server file is going to get really long and it's handling too much. We want to split this up so as our server grows, much like in a React app, we split things into files, all for their specific tasks. So we're going to use express.router to put these in their own file and these in their own file because they handle their own collection in the database. So we need to talk file structure here for a moment. So far, we've kept this very light. We have a server.js, which is our server file. We have our package lock and package.json for node purposes, and we have our node modules. We're going to create another folder here now called routes. And this is where we're going to put all of our route files, basically the file we make for movies and the file we make for TV shows. Okay, so let's start with movies. If we come into here, I'm going to make a file called movierouter.js. And this is going to be the file that handles all movie associated tasks. So in this file, we're going to need first express, so we'll require that. And then using this package, we can create a router variable, something that can handle routes, just like app is handling post and get here. Express.router lets us create our own variable that does what this is doing for us, what this app variable does. So in movie router, we're going to declare that. We're going to say const movie router equals express dot and then capital R router, and we'll call it. So when this constructor is called, it returns a router variable that we can use to handle all of our movie routes in this file. Now, before you forget, I always make a bunch of space here and then module.exports my movie router, because we're going to need this movie router variable accessible to our server so it still knows how to handle these /movies requests. Great. Well, while we're using fake databases, this is going to have to come along for the ride as well. So we're going to move our movies array. I'm just going to cut it here and move it into the top level of my movie router. And I'm going to do that to my routes as well. So now I'm going to come down to my movie routes, cut those out, and move them into here. Okay, so did a couple things. We created a routes folder, we created a movie router file. In that file, we imported Express and created a movie router variable. We brought our data in because that's what these routes, they need access to them to send back responses or add data to it. And then we moved our routes over as well. So the one last change we need to make to this file is app is no longer defined. We haven't passed it into this file. It is a way you can do that, but let's learn the movie router or the express router way. So I'm going to replace the word app with movie router and movie router. Great. Got the space we need here. But does our server know that file exists? No, it doesn't. So we need to teach it that when you get a request to /movies, go look in this file because you'll find the associated routes that handles those requests. So instead of writing all of our routes right here where we have before, we're going to set up some more middleware using app.use. We're going to tell it to use our movie router on requests that start with /movies. So we'll say app.use. When you get a request to /movies, require our own file. So we'll say ./routes/movie router.js. Now remember, the dot slash is saying this is a file I wrote. Go and find it here. For node modules, we leave off the dot slash so it knows to look in the node modules folder. Okay, so let's test this with the movie router endpoint and see if it works. Okay, so this is going to be interesting, but let's send a GET request and just see what happens. Oh no, could not get a response. What could be the issue? Well, often if there's an issue, we can come into our server file and we will see that it has crashed. Now this may be the first time you've seen this, maybe not, but this is a server error, and it's where you'll be doing all your error handling when you're building a server. So I scroll up here to the top of the error, it says reference error, UUID is not defined. Okay, problem number one. What happened here? Well, my movie router is using UUID as I told it to, but I failed to bring in UUID to help. So I'm going to copy this line and move it over to my movie router. See my server restart, sees the error's been fixed, great. We'll go back and we'll send the request again and see what happens. Interesting. So this time, it wasn't a crash, but my server sent back a response that says it cannot get /movies. So something broke here. Even though we're telling our server on any request to /movies, check this file, it's not finding this endpoint. And the purpose is not extremely obvious. It's we have a redundancy. To prove this point, let's go back to Postman, and I'm going to make the endpoint GET request to /movies /movies. And there we go. Okay, so they're coming in now. So why did this endpoint get duplicated? Well, it's because I duplicated it. Here I'm saying listen to /movies. When you get a request, go look in this file. Then it's going to scan these for a /movies, but this has already been declared on my server file, so it is redundant. So when we're using Express Router, I can actually get rid of this word because /movies is already implied to even get to this file. And now we have our endpoint as we had it before. So I'll come back here, I'll get rid of the redundancy and do a GET request to just movies, and we can see it's hitting that router file just fine. Okay, well, a little bit more work to do. We have TV shows as well, so let's go back to our server.js. We need to move these routes and their associated data to their own file. So let's go into routes and create a TV show router.js. Again, I will bring in Express, and I will create a router variable for TV shows. So TV show router equals express.router. Now I'm choosing these variable names to be very declarative. You can call it whatever you want, it's just a variable, but it should be called what it's handling. Okay, and then before I forget, I will module.exports my TV show router. Alright, so now from the server, let's copy over the data we need. We need our fake data, so I can remove this now and move it in. And then I also need my routes. So pull this up. We'll grab these two route files, or these two routes, and we'll move them over. One other thing we needed that we forgot on the movie router was UUID, so I'll cut that from here now because we're no longer using that in this file, and I'll put it in my TV show router. Okay, the last change we need to do, if you can see it, we need to remove app and replace it with TV show router and TV show router. Alright, so that's all nice and self-contained now. We need to teach our server to look at that file when a request comes in, so we will tell it to app.use. When you get a request to TV shows, require my route file called TV show router. And we learned our lesson the first time. We don't want redundant endpoints, so we're going to come into here and remove /TV shows, as that's already declared on our server file. Alright, so now we have a movie router that handles those routes, a TV show router that handles those routes, and a server that knows about both of them. But just take a moment, breathe in the fresh air of how simple the server file looks now. it's doing much more of what it should be doing. It's referencing what it needs, and it's setting up the configuration it needs. All right, let's test this out and make sure it works. So first, we will do a get request to movies, make sure that's still going. There we go. And now we'll do a get request to /TV shows. Make sure that's working. Oh boy, what's going on here? What did I do? Well, we can go read our server error and get a little bit more practice with that. Okay, reference error, movies is not defined. Okay, where did that happen? We'll start scanning these files here on the right until you see one that is ours. Well, fortunately, it's the first one here. It says TV show router line 14. So I'll go there, line 14. And sure enough, when I copy these over, I did not change this to TV shows. That's my bad. Maybe you saw it. If you didn't, I want to get you as much practice as you can with these errors in the console, so I'm just letting the recording fly because you're going to run into plenty of these. You need to know where to look. All right, and we can go test it again. So TV shows, let's do a get request. There we go. And since we didn't test it out, let's try doing a post to TV shows and add a new show. Let's say maybe His Dark Materials, now on HBO. And this is, fantasy. Let's go with that. So I'll post. All right, successfully added His Dark Materials to the database. Let's see if it was. So we'll do our get request again. And there we go. All right, so a little bit longer of an episode, but really important to create a manageable server as it grows, because we're going to end up having about 5 routes in each of these files once we've learned all the basics. There's going to be much more once you start building more complex applications, and we have this really sincere need to put things in their own files and manage them. It's a good workflow to follow. So go ahead now and implement this with whatever server code you're practicing with, whatever you're building. Move things modularly into their own files. Now, there is one more thing that we can do with this router variable that we haven't seen yet. So it's worth going over. Let's just do it here. These two endpoints, get and post, are the exact same, right? They're to /movies. There's no extension added to them. So this router variable that we have actually has a method in it that can declare this once for every method that needs it. So the way that we would do this is we would say movie router dot route. And here is where we put the route. So we just say /. Then our requests can just be chained on. We can say there's going to be a get request to this. There's also going to be a post request to this. So in an effort to not have to rewrite all this, I'm going to just copy the get and copy the post. And I can comment these out now. All right, so here is an alternative syntax. I can say movie router for any request to / movies. If it's a get request, do this. If it's a post request, do this. Now, the get and post routes don't need to declare these endpoints anymore, so I can just get rid of them. And now you just receive the request and response objects to handle the request and response. So let's test our movie routes, make sure it works, and be done with this. So open my server here. Looks like everything's running just fine. So we'll move over. We'll do a get request to movies. And there we go. Still working just fine. So I really don't have an opinion on which syntax you use. If you want to split them up like this, go for it. If you want to use the route variable and combine them, great. That's an awesome syntax to use. You should at least practice it so you're aware that this is possible, because we can also say now for put request to this and for delete request to this. And then we only have to declare the endpoint once for these 4 different types of requests. So that's great. All right, again, like I said, get a little practice with this. Add this into whatever you're building right now to practice this. And as soon as you feel comfortable setting up your Express routers and referencing them like so, let's move on.